We're talking about illegal immigrants and immigration and naturalization policy. Is there some double standard? Is there a basic hypocrisy here? All along the border states, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, California, they almost tell the Mexican immigrants, come on in, we need you to chop lettuce, we need you to chop strawberries, we need you to take care of our kids. There's an enormous amount of sexual as well as physical and in pesticide abuse. Who are we kidding? We're telling them we don't want them there, but we're begging them to come because no American wants to chop cotton or chop lettuce for that matter, Mr. Wiles.
Actually, we have a long history in this country of abusing aliens, going back to the Chinese who were brought here to build the railroads and do all of the dirty work, and then summarily dropped from our law and made totally excludable for 100 years. And then finally we let them in a trickle at a time, and today we're getting back to a fairer procedure with respect to them. There are employers who rely upon illegals because they're not paying the minimum wage and they're not treating them properly and they're not housing them properly. But there are agencies to enforce those laws which are apparently not doing their job.
Yeah. Ed, what about the concept that very often an exodus here in the United States is a direct result of our governmental policy toward a country? In '65, we invaded Santo Domingo. That caused the invasion. When we invaded El Salvador, well, not invaded, but aided them in their civil war, we ended up with Salvadorians. Sears Roebuck controls Haiti. They control so much of the industry in Haiti. Paying them nothing.
I think that's the left-wing baloney, blaming the United States for everything.
No, but I'm not,
everybody in the world wants to come here. This is a wonderful place.
Yes,
only Americans knock it. Only left-wing Americans knock it. But the people in every other country, this is where they want to come, with all of our imperfections.
But then what about the hypocrisy we talk about with respect to small employees, sometimes agribusiness too? We have these people who have them come over and do the worst work, something American youth don't want to do anymore. And then we tell them they can't stay here. I mean, does it make sense?
Well, I believe, once again, that our policy on immigration is so generous that I have no feeling of distress on sending people back to their countries. When, for example, Chinese now today come in at Kennedy, according to that 60-minute program, they say, I'm a political refugee because I'm only allowed to have one child. That's ridiculous. And absolutely ridiculous. I mean, if China only wants to have one child, doesn't mean that you can come here as a political refugee.
I have a problem with that policy too, because I think it is wrong that China does that. But how come we'll let somebody come here from China because they can't have more than one child, but we won't let people from Haiti in when every day there's stories of people being brutalized, beaten, heads chopped off. That is racism completely.
Not to mention that these of all of the Caribbean countries, English-speaking Caribbean, these people are the most industrious. They are clean. They are spiritual. They're religious. I haven't seen any on welfare. They drive their cabs. We talk about
everybody goes on welfare of every group.
No. Well, there'll be some.
Whites
but in terms of
blacks,
Haitians, in terms of Haitians, you have a lesser proportion of Haitians on welfare than any other group, and I would contend that we could show this in numbers. They're tremendously industrious people.
Well, the largest group of people on welfare among the immigrants are the Russians. They account 1/3 of the families are on.
Doesn't make a difference whether they're white or black.
If the thought of the Founding Fathers, if the thought of our immigration policy was to allow people who did not have tremendous educational skills or academic, to bring them into the country, to help build, are you saying that because we don't have those jobs anymore, the Irish came here, were abused tremendously, Peter Quinn's book outlines, were horribly abused, but there were jobs. When the Jews came from Poland and the Soviet Union and Russia at that time, there were jobs. When the Italians came, there were jobs. All of a sudden, it stopped. Are there jobs for these people, Mr. Wiles?
There's a procedure to bring these people in that safeguards the labor market. Essentially, when these people come in, those coming for the purpose of employment who don't have immediate family, relatives here and so on, have to get a certificate from the Labor Department that there's a shortage of qualified people available to take that job. So the law does provide, it's a very sensible law, and it does provide for a limitation. Yes, I find in my own practice recently that there are fewer jobs, and the Labor Department is finding more placement for Americans in those jobs offered to aliens than ever historically.
I'd also like to point out that not only on the jobs issue, the immigrants are creating jobs.
Yes.
Who are our small business people today?
Okay, we have to take a break. More Good Day Street Talk right after these messages.